Welcome to Circle Podcast, brought to you by Circle Sanctuary, one of the oldest nature spirituality churches in the United States, connecting people of nature-centered paths around the world. Join us throughout the week for a variety of shows discussing various topics, celebrating the divine in all of its forms through nature worship, rituals, education, and building bridges of community. Welcome to Urban Unwitches, a podcast to educate, inform, and expand the pagan community. Please join our Discord channel, Urban Unwitches Podcast. Follow us on TikTok at Urban Unwitches, and listen to all our past podcasts on your favorite podcasting platform. You can also join us on YouTube at Urban Unwitches. Now, back to the show. Hey.
Hello.
How you doing?
Good. Had to make sure that the logo was on the right side because we learn our lessons.
So this nice guy on TikTok texted us and said, I think that Kyler's microphone is not turned up as high as yours. And I wrote him back privately and said, yeah, we've been having, a learning curve, if you will. And we, discovered after we were having so much trouble, I asked my audiovisual husband to help, that we were talking into the back of the microphone. And so in newer episodes, you're going to hear that we sound the same. Also, the new Filmora, it has a normalization for the audio where it makes all the audio the same level, no matter how high or low it was recorded.
I'm really glad that I remembered Filmora was a thing because that thing is turning out clutch.
It really is. I'm very pleased with it. And Tony was the one who he was like, I bet this has this and this. Let's open the audio. And he showed it to me and how it works. And I did it on the last one. And the difference is significant. Yeah. It just gives such a crispness, and it's all across the board. And I'm going to really enjoy it when Michael is back on. Did you see my email about Michael?
I did. I've already responded.
Okay, I didn't check. Yeah. I'm sorry, I got off crocheting.
No, you're completely fine. Also, I don't know if you've done something different with your eye makeup today, but it's slapping. Like it's hitting really good.
Thanks. So at LARP, I have a new, so the colors of my LARP character are greens. And I bought a eyeshadow palette that was all these different greens. And some of them were more fall than others. And it also just happened to have some yellows in it. And I thought, it's fall. Wouldn't it be cool if I used the yellow? And Ashton, who I take now because she's Kathy's daughter and Kathy can't play because Kathy's sick, has hurt herself. So Ashton came up and said, this is what you should do. You should do this and this and this with the yellow. And we did it. And the yellow looked so good on my eyes. I was just like, what the F? Like, I couldn't believe it. And I learned a technique. And so I applied that technique today. And then I added a little green because green sweater. And here's my necklace.
Love that. That is gorgeous.
Beautiful?
That was the gift that the friend from LARP gave you? The one that follows the TikTok? Very nice.
She follows the TikTok and she says you're hilarious and she thinks we're great and we're doing good work. And that was how I ended up with this particular piece of jewelry, which I really enjoy.
Gorgeous.
It's gorgeous. And it was handmade by someone who, you know how witches we do. Someone gives you something and you're like, this isn't for me, but I'm going to hang on to it because eventually I'll know who it's for. And this is one of those things that happened to her. She said, somebody gave it to me. I knew it wasn't for me, but I've held on to it. And I found it the other day and went, I know who this is for. So that was kind of cool.
It looks vintage. It looks like one of those pieces that somehow survived from like grandma to grandma, like from the 20s or 30s or something. Like it really
does.
Yeah. Well, I love the effect.
What it is foiled. They call it foiled glass. So this glass piece was hot when they put the gold in.
Oh,
And so
okay.
now it's all one piece, but you can feel the gold just barely where it's melted
Okay.
into the glass. I didn't know what this was until Nami, who's in the coven and also
Hmm.
LARPs with me, saw it and said, "Oh my God, that's gold foil glass." And then she explained the process. She knew all about it. I was like, I don't know that, but that's cool.
It it's so funny. I know so much about so many things, and then every single day I find something new. Like it never gets old. Like I love it. Like the if you had asked me, I would have thought the only way to make that would be to like do an epoxy type thing, like a resin type pour
Right.
over that.
No.
And I didn't even
Mm-hmm.
know about that. So now I have to look up an entirely new art form.
This is glass. This is a glass piece with which and it's really heavy and it's one of those pieces
Hmm.
is going to wear well, if you know what I
Yeah.
mean.
Yeah.
You're not worried about
Especially
it hurting.
especially on that sweater, that green with the black and the
Yeah,
gold.
no, it really
That's a good
pops.
combo. Yeah.
Yep.
I honestly, when I say that I've got a lot to do to get ready for Sal, I'm enlisting the aid of my mother and my niece, who are largely
Wow.
incompetent at anything without micromanaging.
Right.
Um, like I've got, apparently Trail of Treaters is a huge thing in this neighborhood, and this house
Oh.
has a history of being one of the always decorated to the nines houses. And the whole neighborhood
Oh.
has been waiting for us to put something up, which I thankfully we have this lovely new neighbor who introduced herself while we were harvesting a metric fuck ton of apples. I'm less than 35% of the way through the apples on this tree, and both sides of
Well.
my sink were completely full. Like my deep freeze is already full of frozen apples because I have to get an apple peeler. It's been delayed twice. Um,
Ugh.
Thank you, Jeff Bezos. I was flying around yesterday. Like I have Dia, I do not know. I do not know how I managed to get all of the stuff that I had into the townhouse that we lived in for 2.5 years. I have
Mm.
no idea how I managed to do that because this house is 3,000 square feet, and that's not counting the welcome to the lost city of Dwerodelf, the kingdom of Moria, that is my garage that two Suburbans can fit in. That is right now, half of it still has stuff in it.
Wow.
I don't know what kind of bigger on the inside TARDIS magic I used to get that in there. And so, like, it is like every time I go out there, I'm like, oh, I've made progress. And then I start unpacking, and it's just like boom, 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 boom. It's like when Harry Potter touches the little trophy in the vault at
Yes.
Gringotts, and it just keeps multiplying. And I'm like, I didn't know I was this effective a magician. This is phenomenal news. This is new news. I start thinking of my life now. This is a good line. I was like, I should tell Dee about this. I should use it in this podcast. Okay. I've become an influencer. Um, with my following of 11 people. And so yeah,
I was talking to someone at LARP and I was like, we had 1,000 hits. And she looked at me and she goes, yeah, I used to have 1,500 followers and got like 3 to 4,000 hits on a regular basis. And I went, oh, well, we just started.
I am glad you had that interaction because mine would have been less graceful.
We just started. And
Yeah,
we're
I'm like
excited about our 1,000 people
it's
who
like
liked our video. And
a
she was like, oh, a
thousand.
1,000 likes. And I was like, yeah. And she goes, oh, well, that is different. And I was like, yeah. But she was telling me how TikTok says if you're over 2,000, you have gotten traction. That's the golden number when you start getting
Yeah.
over 2,000 views, then you've reached out beyond your sphere of influence and are getting
Hmm.
more viral. I just the odd things I find out at LARP, and that was one of them.
Well, that's the
Um,
coolest thing about LARP and like the SCA, like the Ren fairs. The people
mhm.
who go there, if there's a zombie apocalypse, those are the people you want to know because they
Oh
have
yeah,
so much practical knowledge. Like,
hell yeah.
yeah, Kimmy had this friend Gunther who was the coolest human being I have ever seen printed onto flesh. He was so cool. Apparently, there's this thing called Japanese purple steel, which I did not know, and he's one of a very small handful of people who can do it. But like the steel, when because he's a bladesmith, like he's a blacksmith,
Right.
and he's got the CNC printers and all this other stuff, so he can do like
Right.
3D printing and cutting and all sorts of stuff. Well, apparently this man can actually like fold and temper Japanese purple steel, and it has the alloys have this almost like purple sheen to it, and it's highly sought after. And I'm like, you're the coolest person ever. How do I fill out the application and take the course that lets me be as cool as Gunter? Like, I want that. It was a thing. Pop magic today, right?
Yeah, and magical creatures.
Ooh, magical creatures. I have got to send you the PowerPoint that I created for that because I found a ton of like artistic representations of these
Oh, cool.
creatures. Yeah, it's basically just like a list of magical creatures with pictures. And I used the Catherine Briggs fairy book. Have you seen that one?
No.
So you need this one for your bookshelf because especially with your Scotch background, that you're gonna love. It is literally this thick, Dia. It is three and a
Ooh.
half inches thick, and it is a dictionary of the British Isles folk.
Ooh.
Like everything you've ever heard of, every different regional variation of the name. Like Briggs did a whopping, I mean, she did like a J.K. Rowling level of research when she
Wow.
did this book, which for if this does not get edited out, J.K. Rowling, terrible human being. The product she created, absolutely amazing. If you are a practitioner and you know a lot about
Right.
the esoteric and you watch the Harry Potter movies,
Yeah.
it's a giant Easter egg. Albus and Rubius.
Rubius.
Yes.
Rubius and Albus. Yep.
Yeah. I
Um,
have entranced people at work with some of the Easter eggs in Harry Potter.
yep. There are a lot of Easter eggs in Harry Potter.
Hmm.
We just don't like J.K. Rowling.
No,
She's a
no.
terrible human being.
She is. And it's so sad because she used to be an ally. She was like a
Yeah.
thermonuclear level ally. Like she used to tear up Westboro Baptist on the Facebook
Right.
constantly. Like, oh,
It's a
that one.
classic. I think it's classic money changes you.
Yeah,
And I think this is a case where a lot of money had a lot of change that happened. And
yeah.
that's just too bad.
It
That's
is. It
sad.
is. Because I mean, it's such a the wizarding world is such a wonderful, just fun place to go to.
Right.
I'm still waiting
Mm-hmm.
for like a CSI style horrors show where like it's magical law and order. Like I need that. It's like the dunk dunk, Avada Kedavra, you know, like just magical law and order. I've set the tone for today. This is,
You
I
have.
woke, I
It's a
woke
little
up and my
dark.
brain just, it's just it's a wee little dark. It's a little dark. It's a
It's a
little
little
zany.
dark today. That's okay.
Kyler's walked into the room. There we go.
So I went to LARP this weekend and I had a good time and I'm finally, involved in plot and I'm really excited about it. I have I have a I have I have so much to do now that I have I don't know if you can see it. It's a Excel spreadsheet for what I'm doing in my LARP that I carry with me in a book.
That is the
Um
most Dia thing I have literally ever heard in my entire life. Your fun play in a feudal fantasy world hobby now requires Excel spreadsheets that you have in a carry along Excel Bible. Dia, you have Dia'd. You're a verb. You're a verb. You've been verbed.
well, it was the only way I could keep straight because I'm taking orders now. And so if you and this one guy this weekend came up and said, "Hey, do you have my thing?" And I went, "No, you're not on the list." And he said, "What do you mean?" And I said, "You didn't make it to the list, so I didn't do anything for you. You have to be on the list. Here, let me put you on the list right now, but you have to be on the list." And
I
he
I
was
just
like, "Okay." And he's checked since twice to make sure he's on the list. I'm like, "You're on the list now."
I just realized something in my heart since we're on slightly still in my brain on Harry Potter. honey, if you were evil, you would be Dolores Umbridge's secretary. Like, you would keep the evil side running through spreadsheets. Like, Voldemort would be told, no, you can't torture this prisoner right now because you're
Right.
not on the list. You would back the Dark Lord down because he wasn't on the list.
It's not on the list. Yeah, so I have to
Oh.
have a list now of things that I'm doing. And then I had to, yeah, LARP. I had to change something at the last minute yesterday, but I was excited. You know, you're excited about LARP when you come back and then spend an hour and a half on a spreadsheet.
I don't know that that's everybody else's response to loving LARP. I think that may be Dia specific.
Maybe the minute I started to say that, I was like, oh, maybe I don't
It's
want to
like,
say this.
yeah, it's like I'm about to be judged. I'm gonna be judged.
Judge. Oh my
We
goodness.
listen and we don't judge.
We listen and we don't judge. So there's nothing else really going on in my world other than we're getting ready for Samhain. This is going to come
Mm-hmm.
out way after Samhain, but we are getting ready for Samhain. And I'm, running Coven, which means dealing with a lot of personalities and what their needs are and that kind of thing. And um, being glad that I have LARP to unplug with.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really good. We're going to talk about magical creatures and pop magic today. And I wanted to start, and I went out. Okay, I used AI. I'm sorry. I went out on AI and I asked it what a good definition for magical creatures were. And this was what it gave me. And I liked it. It's a magical creature is a supernatural, mythical, or legendary being that possesses magical abilities or characteristics not found in the real world. These creatures exist in folklore, mythology, and fiction and can be hybrids of different animals or humans, spiritual entities, and fantastical beasts with unique powers. I like this explanation.
John Cena. John Cena is a magical creature.
Oh my God, he is.
He
I'm
is,
going to
yeah.
tell my son that. My son is big into wrestling. I'm going to have to say John Cena is a magical creature. Although he
I'm
doesn't like the WWE, he's some alternative wrestling fan.
if Sam likes it, it's alternative. Like he's
It's true.
if there's anything he liked that was mainstream and he found out it was mainstream, he'd immediately
He
unlike
wouldn't
it.
like it
He
anymore.
wouldn't like it anymore. It's one of the many things I love about Samuel. But actually, I haven't followed wrestling of any kind in like 25 years. His movies are hilarious. Also, he's like broken the record for Make-A-Wish stuff. Like, I
Oh,
mean,
really?
no, John Cena's like a really amazing dude. Like, I almost made a joke comparing him to The Rock, but I'm not gonna do that because I feel like we would get canceled because The Rock is also beloved. Um,
Yes.
yes, but like, no,
Yeah. Let's not do that.
yeah, let's not get canceled. Like, we're so proud of our 1,000 followers. I don't want to like I don't want to do anything to alienate them. I've become like that level. It's like, oh, don't piss off the internets. That's dangerous. It's like I already got in trouble for not crediting Robin Williams with a joke. I don't want to take it any
Right.
further. It's like that's
Perfect.
like the lane assist on my car. It's like, oh, there's the line. Beep 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 beep. Get back. Color inside your lane. So
um,
yeah, I am
so
not
that's
focused
magical
today. I'm
creatures.
sorry.
Yeah, folk, that's okay. That's magical
Yeah.
creatures. And then I wanted to give it a definition for pop magic, so I did the same thing. It
Mm-hmm.
refers to modern unconventional form of occultism that integrates pop culture with traditional magical practices. Perfect explanation of what pop magic is. It takes things like, well, we're going to talk more about that, but it takes modern unconventional forms of occultism that integrates pop culture with traditional magical practices. Now,
Mm-hmm.
in order to understand why pop magic is a thing, you have to understand some of the laws of magic. And we're not going to talk about all the laws of magic, but I have picked the ones that are important. The most
Okay.
important one being the law of personification. And the law of personification says any concept, force, object, or phenomena may be considered to be alive, to have a personality, or to be an entity. And Bonowitz says anything can be a person. So, with the law of personification, if you take something like Sailor Moon, who has a ton of fans and people who emulate her and kind of in a way or worshiping her, then Sailor Moon becomes an actual entity. And that's what pop culture basically is saying. Pop magic is saying pop culture is a form of worship, and therefore it creates these entities as actual magical beings you can interact with. The other one is that I liked was the law of pragmatism for this. The law of pragmatism says that if it works, it's true in magic. So if you do something and it works, then that's true. So this also allows room for we did a Pokemon ritual, and we had Charizard as fire. Well, that works. Charizard can be fire, and he is fire, and he represents that. And so if you call Charizard, he's going to show up with fire because he is this magical entity. He has succumbed to the law of personification, and therefore he can be that. And so pragmatism says if it works, it's true. And those are really the two big ones. There are some other ones that are true, but I think really the ones that we should focus on are, and the law of intelligence. The law of intelligence says any pattern of sufficient complexity will act intelligent when treated as an entity. Again, what?
So, okay. This may just be a function of the early hour, because I did get up earlier and we started a little earlier today, and the very large influx of coffee. But I have a couple of reactions to some of what you're saying.
Okay.
So the first is, I actually had a conversation the other day with somebody who referred to Chat GPT as the new Oracle at Delphi.
Oh,
It hurt my it hurt. It hurt.
that
There
hurts.
was a tearing sound inside, like that moment when you feel the Horcrux get made. Yeah, I was not happy. It's gonna be all the rowling today. Um, so but then that got me to thinking about like how popular Neil Gaiman's American Gods was, and it
Right.
functions under the same principle.
Same principles. Yep.
Um, yeah, the exact same principles. Also, the Bonowitz's law of personification, we are basically, in essence, arguing the magical occult equivalent of Citizens United, like all things have personhood. Um, I've been writing, so my brain is super meta right now, so please bear with me. It's going to be a wild ride for everybody involved. Um,
Well, and I will point out that the law of personification is Bonowitz's idea, but it's also in the axioms
mhm.
of magic. So it's in both places. And it was one of the
Yeah.
reasons why I picked it, because both of those sets different things you can look up about the laws of magic, which are basically like the laws of physics only applied to magic. The law of
Yeah.
personification is in both of those.
Well, that's a huge thing, and like there's a lot of overlap between the two. The other thing is any system or reaction or pattern that is complex enough is to be considered alive. You've also just described AI.
Yes.
And so like that's these laws, these understandings they're old. Like they're old. Like much of
Right.
the foundations of psychology were practiced by occultists for centuries and centuries into the past. I always like to
Right.
plug the people who came before, because people in the modern era like to think that if it's modern, that means it's better. And by and large, that's
Right.
not always true. Like, yes, science has given us some wonderful things, but like these understandings of the functions of the universe, both occult and physical, they've been around a long time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. Well, I
So,
think that's interesting that you point that out. And we are very excited. Michael Hughes, who did Magic for the Resistance, has agreed to come back. And we're going to actually talk in depth about the laws of magic and specifically the axioms of magic. And
mhm.
so we will actually be able to have kind of these in depth conversations with someone who has really made it their life's work to understand the laws of magic and the axioms of
Mhm.
magic and what they mean and how they behave and what makes it true. And I think that's a really good thing, because if you read Michael's book, he is very anti AI, very anti AI.
Mhm.
I mean, he has a whole
Yeah.
section on how bad AI is. So I think that's worth having a conversation about
Mhm.
when we get Michael trapped again.
He was so much
Trapped
fun.
on our podcast again. We can make him
Yes.
explain that to us. But I think you're right. I think some of these definitions will have to be modified as AI and computers develop, and I think the thing to remember is that these things were established well before AI was anything other than science fiction. And
Well, yes and no, because I mean, it's the definition holds true. Any pattern that is sufficiently complex can be considered alive. That is, you're speaking to the very nature of what is sentience. Like,
right,
what is that indefinable soft turning point where, is Mr. Data an android or is he a
right.
living being? And considering how many times Brent Spiner's character has been reincarnated in the Star Trek franchise at this point, he's got a soul, guys. He's got to, because I mean, he just will not die. He is the android cockroach of the 24th century. Um, I love Brent Spiner. I'm sad that I connected him to a cockroach. Um, but but no, I think that AI, like on the topic of AI, I want to state for all and sundry, and again, I hope I don't get canceled for this. I despise AI with every
Yep.
from my genetic code up. I am a major science fiction buff. It's not because I'm terrified of Skynet, though. I think we're approaching like the final apocalypse date from that franchise. It's like the only one we have left from all the movies we saw as kids. Um, as a visual artist, AI strips the soul out of everything and it removes nuance, it removes so much. The number of times somebody double checks something I say with Chat GPT, they argue with me, and then I actually look the information up with actually tried and true like resources. And
Right.
no, Chat GPT was wrong. Like I would say Chat GPT is wrong almost 80% of the time. Like the things it
Oh,
does get right, it gets right just enough so that people trust it on the other 80%. And it's just like it's it's awful.
yeah. Tony is a big AI fan now. And
Oh,
everything he has, he looks up according to AI, and he'll put in a question for AI and ask. And I'm not really a fan of it because he'll come back and say, well, AI said. And I'm like, that doesn't, let's go back to, if it's all on the internet, it doesn't necessarily mean it's true. It's just on the
mm,
internet. It doesn't mean that that's true.
I'm listening and I'm judging.
and we
Yeah,
and we just
it's
mentioned Tony, so drink. If you're doing the
oh,
drinking game, drink
that's
to
right. The
Tony.
Tony drinking game. Did we actually announce that?
No, well, we did last time. We talked about that Tony has a drinking game now, and I asked him what the rules were, and he said, if my name is mentioned, drink. That's the rule.
I'm gonna need more coffee because I'm unprepared. I only have the one cup.
I know, me too.
Though
um
I don't know if you can see that one. Oh, it's
don't
backwards,
poke
but the
don't poke the
bear.
bear. Yep.
Yeah, my old boss got me this at UF Neurosurge, and she had no idea that in the gay world I am the bear. So I didn't know that she had lived a completely sheltered life. So I thought she was giving me a very inclusive gift. And we both operated in this mutual state of ignorance for about 2.5 years until one day I explained the gay taxonomy. And she was horrified because she is sheltered and closeted. And I just wish I could live in that state of not knowing about the world. But yeah, so I treasure it doubly because it was a very inclusive, not inclusive gift that I now treasure.
That's awesome. um so Pop Magic.
Pop
I think
Magic.
we get off? Let's turn the worm and get back on to
That's a
Pop
Paul
Magic.
that is a Paul Atreides reference from a previous podcast. It has nothing to do with tequila. Though one day that should be the podcast. Urban Unwitches Soused Edition. Talk about untucked.
Oh my god, I can't even imagine the two of us soused and then doing this podcast at the same time.
Midnight margaritas, Dia.
Oh my god.
I know what I want for my birthday.
I was going to talk about the He-Man ritual. So I
Mm.
got introduced to Pop Magic through going to a now defunct uh event called Pantheacon in California. And I saw in the schedule, it said He-Man ritual. You have the power. And I was like, I liked He-Man. What am I going to do? And so I went, and they, instead of the god, they called He-Man. Instead of the goddess, they called She-Ra. They had Grayskull in there. And this was also, I can't explain this really, the impact it had, because they had screens up. They had 2 screens up and 2 different people on 2 different computers. And at one point, they had He-Man talking to Grayskull. Like they had mashed together different outtakes of He-Man so he would say a certain thing. And then Grayskull like responded with a different thing. I mean, it was a masterpiece of, and this is before AI, so they had to do it the hard way. This was a long time ago, and they had to have done that the hard way, really looking for those clips and then putting those clips together manually. So they did some work to make this work. But it was the greatest thing because it worked, right? They were trying to empower people, and they were trying to empower them through pop magic. And that is exactly what they did. I left euphoric and excited about magic and excited about life. And that's what their goal was. And it worked. Law of pragmatism, it worked. And that's when I really became enamored of pop magic, was after that ritual, because I don't think I understood what it was until that ritual. And so kudos, if you're out there and you did that ritual, kudos to you. It was masterful and it was great. And somewhere I still have, they gave out these scrolls with like a statement from He-Man about how you had the power. And I still have that scroll somewhere. I know that I do. Because I've seen it recently. I was like, oh, it's the He-Man scroll. So I like that. I also happen to like Sailor Moon, and Sailor Moon is an even bigger exception to this because they're tapping into an already known set of symbols and entities that are the planets. And so you have Sailor Mercury and Pluto, and not Pluto, Sailor,
Mercury is one of them.
Yeah, Mercury is one of them. I think not Pluto, Uranus is one of them.
Mars
is one. The moon. So you have all these different personifications, and the people who did it held true to what those personifications as they were applied to the real planets. So Sailor Moon is the heart and the goddess type figure in this, and then Mars is like, I'm going to kick your butt. Mercury is more cerebral. So it's one of the things that I really got into was because of Sailor Moon as well. And it didn't hurt that my first magical partner was a gay man who loved Sailor Moon. And so I watched,
as we do,
all the Sailor Moon. In fact, Sam was raised on a diet of Sailor Moon. He would come over and bring his collection, and we would watch it on DVD. Yeah. So Sam has had a good background in Sailor Moon. He used to ask to watch Sailor Moon when he was little.
Oh, little Sam.
Little Samuel asking to watch Sailor Moon. Can we just Sailor Moon?
My brain has created that movie on the inside of my forehead, and it's as adorable as a whole basket of Basset Hound puppies.
Oh, Sam was a ridiculously cute kid. Really ridiculously cute. I have pictures of him as a kid, and I'm just like, dang, you were so cute as a kid.
I did not know that eyes could come that big and beautiful. Like there's pictures of him like in your house, and I was like, oh my God, he's adorable.
I know. Yeah, he was cute.
Yeah.
So that is pop magic. There's not a lot to be said other than it's real. We could debate some of the laws of magic as they apply, like we talked about earlier, but really pop magic is taking your favorite thing. And I like to think about things like Ren and Stimpy.
Oh, heaven help us.
Or doing a ritual for, what are those little kids with the big mouths? Oh, South Park. The South Park
Oh,
kids. Doing a ritual with the South Park kids, or SpongeBob SquarePants.
so the funny thing is like on Pop Magic, when I first encountered it, I had the opposite. So it was actually poo-pooed. It was not exalted when I first encountered
Right.
it. So the very first time I encountered it, they used the example of Diana of Themyscira.
Oh, okay.
Very, very recognizable. Obviously comes from like that Greek Hellenistic pantheon and all of that. So very much tapped into that that foundation of like Western psychology, right? And so one of the ways that my teachers at the time approached it was that, yeah, this is a cool idea, but there was always this but to it. And it took me a while to realize that bias had kind of sunk in. And so I
Mm-hmm.
really spent some time kind of examining it. And as I do, I tend to get really meta with things. Like I'm one of those guys that sit around in the armchair. I am literally an armchair philosopher. If you give me any kind of overstuffed recliner, I'm going to sit there and ponder the most esoteric nonsense that can never be utilized in any practical way. That's my gift. But like the question that I always had was exactly where is the line between these forms that we create and like the core spirit of the thing? Like, how plugged in are they? And I think it's both a function of time and repetition, much like any time you do something like on the astral or, in the spiritual planes. We're transient beings, but when enough of us believe, when enough of us are sending that energy out, we are adding weight and foundation. So that's a sandcastle that can withstand the coming of the tides. And
Mm-hmm.
it's as just kind of a meta thought experiment, it's a lot of fun because you can go in a lot of different directions with it. But I had to actually overcome that challenge when I first started thinking about it because it had been reinforced for many years as part of a how far along your path are you? And then I realized I'm like, well, how did Zeus get worshipped the way Zeus was worshipped?
Right.
Like that's a thing. That's it functions under the same thing. If
Right.
you look at like a Hinduistic um approach to God, so like the multifaceted jewel, uh a very kind of Hindu way of looking at it, if you engage with it that way, all you're doing is creating a new facet on an infinitely faceted jewel. You're still plugging in. So like if you talk to a Norse practitioner, they don't think of their gods as gods. Like there's this kind of redefinition of what
Right.
divinity is. There's not an obeisance that goes with it. They are honored ancestors. Like they're treated more like honored ancestors than gods.
Right.
But that kind of veneration, that kind of comes from most of us coming out of like a transcendent deity background. And
Right.
when you really kind of eschew that, am I eschew? I've never known really how to pronounce that word. When you reject or fully eject all the tendrils of that mindset, it opens up a whole new world of
Right.
how to engage with these thought forms.
Well, and I think one of the things you said that's really important to point out here is there is a belief within magic that you can create thought forms,
Hmm.
and you can do this by, and there are some famous examples. I'm going to use one that is often quoted by Gavin Bone and Janet Farrar, and they talk about creating a warrior woman to uh, be the guardian over this one little island where they were protecting seals. And
Hmm.
the seals were endangered, and they wanted to protect the seals from seal hunters, especially
Hmm.
baby seals, because of the prize that is their skin. And
Hmm.
so they talked about it for a long time. What does she look like? How does she stand? What does she wear? She has a flaming sword. And then one of the members who was an artist drew her. And
Mm-hmm.
then one of the group was actually a volunteer who would go stand watch to try to scare off these hunters. And as she came onto the island one time, they said, "Oh, hey, be careful of the ghost lady." And she said, "The what?" And then they described exactly what this coven had put
Mm-hmm.
together, and having it seen it walking among the seals. So that's the power of thought forms, right? Ooh, I just got
Mm-hmm.
goosebumps. Ooh. Um, so that's the power of thought forms. And here's the thing: if you believe in thought forms, you're going to have a hard time convincing me that then Sailor Moon is not a thought form.
Oh,
It's
she
it's
definitely
definitely the
is. Yeah.
same type of thing. Santa
Mm-hmm.
Claus, the reason he looks the way he looks, right, is
Mm.
a conglomeration of a bunch of different cultures
Mm-hmm.
that was put together by Coca-Cola. But you can't tell me that if Santa Claus appears to you, he's going to look much different than that. I mean, because that's what's ingrained in our psyche. That is what we have been inundated with as far as what Santa Claus should look like. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that's one of the things that I wanted to point out that you said, because you just kind of scooted over this thought form. If you believe in thought forms, where's that line between thought form and then actual entities? And I think that line doesn't exist. There is no line. And another good example is the goddess Caffeina. I have been pagan a long time, and the
Mm-hmm.
goddess Caffeina is worshipped by the majority of pagans I have met. Hail the goddess of
Mm-hmm.
caffeine. And
Blessed is she
and
amongst those of us who are cracked. Yes.
right. And so that to me is a thing. Another one would be the parking gods. I'm going to pray to the parking gods before I get to where I'm going so I have a good parking spot. And then it works. Again, the law of pragmatism. If it works, it's true. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a lot of what pop magic relies on, is the law of pragmatism and the law of intelligence, the law of personification. These three laws really kind of wrap up why these things work. And I had another
Mm-hmm.
thought, but I can't remember it. So I hope you have something to say.
I I mean, Dia, do I have something to say? I'm almost offended. It's like you don't know me. Um, so actually this raises something. I've mentioned this once in one of our, I think our first podcast, but there was a so we did a public class for many, many years. And one of the teachers there was a good friend of mine, and he was a very effective teacher. Probably one of the best ritual writers I've met. I mean, absolutely beautiful. And his grasp of how to turn a ritual into something that could touch you, like really reach inside. I mean, when it comes to like the law of pragmatism, I think in a lot of ways, he's like the personification of that.
Right.
Um, he was teaching a class on, I think it was the Wheel of the Year, and we had gotten to the Oak and the Holly King. Now, there are going to be some people out there who probably don't agree with me on this. That's completely fine.
Right.
Historically, there's not a lot of precedence. There's not a lot of like historical provenance for the idea of the oak and the holly king. By and large, that came out of 17th and 18th century writing. That was a very, very fecund, fertile time for writing, especially that type of folk writing in the British Isles. And so a lot of the lore, a lot of how we engage with like the Robin Goodfellows and all that other comes out of that time. It's 200-300 years old. There's no problem with that. It works, you know, like if it slaps, it slaps. I don't know that I'm using that slang right. I'm in a dangerous place here because I'm now inundated with young people slang and I don't 100% understand it. Can literally parse archaic Greek better than what they're saying. But I heard it in a song, Incense That Slaps. So I'm hoping I'm using it right. Anyway, um, yeah, I've gotten to that age. The white in my beard wasn't an indicator. You are laughing at me so hard right now, and I love it. Um, anyway, he's teaching this
Anyway,
class. Anyway, um, all the coffee and it hasn't hit yet. He's teaching this class, and we had a lady visiting that had never been there before. And by and large, she seemed very sweet. There came a point where he says the phrase, there is no evidence historically for the oak and the holly king past this certain point. They
Right.
didn't engage with the oak and the holly king in this way. Like the ancient Celts
Right.
didn't do that. You know, like
Right.
2000 years ago, there wasn't a divine battle between the oak and the holly king. We are rebuilding what
Right.
those kind of descendants of the Celts believed in, because the Druids were the keeper of their religion, and the Romans
And
played their favorite
right.
game of stabby stab stab, and they went away. So we don't know what they are. That doesn't mean the Oak and the Holly King is not a beautiful
Right.
manifestation of the changing of the year.
Right.
Like, I mean, there's even new scholarship showing our understanding of the Persephone myth is probably off, and Hades is a later name, and all this other stuff. Anyway, during the break, she comes up to him and she was like, "Well, you're wrong. I just wanted to correct you. You're wrong. The oak and the holly king are ancient." And
Mm.
he kind of got this like, "Oh, okay." And he tried to engage her with it because that's what we had been trained to do. You know, you engage and you try to pull it apart so you can understand where the miscommunication is. And because she had engaged in a ritual with the oak and the holly king, and it touched way down deep
Right.
inside, that became at least a middle-sized T truth. Like that was a hill that this particular lady just would die on. Like she 100% was not backing down. And he attempted to say, that's fine. It doesn't have to be ancient. If it works, it works. But that headcanon was, this is something that existed in ancient times. And I think that to an extent, that also plays into this. If you believe that is ancient, not that that changes time or any of that, but
Yep.
it does shore up like the sense of age for humans, because we are so transient. The idea that something is old makes it more powerful.
Yep.
And so for her, that sense of age and that thought form. So like at this point, literally the oak and the holly king, I used the word literally wrong there. In point of fact, apparently to use the term literally, it has to be written. Actually we
Oh.
use literally wrong, and I've been
Oh.
doing it literally. See, I did it again my whole life. So it's actually, and then if it's written down, it's you literally said this. Guess it makes sense. Literature, literary. Anyway,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
the yeah, total tangent, more tangents than a geometry class. This whole thing like really rang his bell because she was vehement about this. Like
Right.
it shook his confidence because he got such an incredible amount of pushback on this. And it was because that thought form had become so dear to her. The image
Right.
of the oak and the holly king was how that changed over. So, I mean, these things can be very, very sacred.
Well, and here's the thing, you know, I know the oak and the holly king. I think of them as modern myths in
Mm-hmm.
the same way that Marilyn Monroe is a modern myth now,
Mm-hmm.
right? And though that doesn't, we're not saying that those things aren't real and don't have real power and don't have real, intelligence. Any pattern of sufficient complexity will act
Mm-hmm.
intelligent when treated as an entity. So if you treat the Holly King and the Oak King like they're real, you're going to have an experience with the Holly King and the Oak King. My husband, his first ever experience was he had a migraine at a pagan event and came stumbling out of the tent, holding his head and going, "Why? Why is there a five-pointed star out of holly leaves? What does it mean? What does it mean?" Well, okay. So he didn't know anything about paganism at the time. Not a darn thing.
Mm-hmm.
But what he didn't know was that when I established Willow Dragonstone or Dragonstone Family Coven, it was at the Yule when the
Mm-hmm.
Holly King rules. And so what it actually said to me was, this is the right man for you. We are spiritually indicating his rightness for you. Now, it also meant other
Mm-hmm.
things to him as well, but that goes back to there's a law called the law of personal universes, so that everybody is
Mm-hmm.
living in their own universe. That's one of the laws of magic. And Tony was having an experience with the Holly King. I was having a separate experience with the Holly King. Does that mean either experience was wrong or right? No, it just means that that
Right.
they existed. And that's one of the things that living in the gray as a witch, you have to remember that we don't live in a world of black and white. We live in a world where two things can be true. And there's another law of magic that says everything is true and everything is untrue all at once, which is
Yes.
a really good view of how witches kind of view the world that in some places is very black and white, and we just don't. It's not it that allows for these other things to be true all at the same time. And the other thing I was going to say, and I remembered, is that when I first came to pop magic, it was through what they called a gigliana. So giglianas were rituals that were deliberately created to be full of laughter. And so they often made fun of things, and they often um usually they involved chocolate. There was a gigliana that was the chocolate ritual that invoked all of the chocolateness of the chocolatey goodness and gods. So that's where I was first exposed to it. It wasn't until late, really, the He-Man ritual, when I was like, oh, this isn't just fun and games. This is real. Like they're really engaging with entities that really exist, and this makes sense to me because of the situation. But I also want to point out one other thing. Sorry, I had three thoughts and I remembered them all at the same time. The last one is this. Think about the power then of political cartoonists who draw a situation, and then everybody sees that cartoon and may identify with that cartoon and put energy into that cartoon. And in a way, it's creating that alternate reality, or a better picture of reality itself. I just thought it was the idea of political cartoonists kind of struck me in this conversation about how this kind of dovetails into what we're talking about. So
Well,
yeah, those were my three thoughts.
I definitely have some response to that as a visual artist. That space of taking something and creating a synopsis of it that you're packaging using symbolism and giving it back to the populace, that's where art lives. That's kind of the nature of it. It is, I mean, when you think about how symbolic we are as creatures, even these words that we're saying right now, these are sounds that mean things. Without language, you cannot have that complexity. When you have the visual with the literary or the verbal, you can create these resounding like sense memories that stay with us, and they can really really resonate. So a couple of things. One, when you call it a gigliana, when I first encountered it, it was called moose mass. And
Oh, okay.
moose mass. And we did two of these absolutely ridiculous rituals that will live rent free in my head forever. The first, for anybody who's studied like the Norse religion, there is a squirrel. In Norse religion, his name is Ratatosk, and he lives on the world tree. And basically, his whole thing in life is to carry tales. He talks shit back and forth between the eagle that lives at the very top and the serpent that lives at the very bottom of Yggdrasil. And he's just a little pot stirrer. He's a little squirrel. So we did Squirrel Mass. And so in the South, we looked up all these different kinds of squirrels. So we called the red squirrel of fire in the South,
Yep.
and all of that. And the problem was, we called Ratatosk, and it lived. Ratatosk visited and would not go away. And I already struggle with an overabundance of squirrel energy. Like there's that imbalance in my life. Thank you, neurology. Um, it was 2 weeks of just could not function. Like everything that could go wrong. My ADHD flared so bad during those 2 weeks. It would I cannot keep a diary or a journal to save my life. It was the weakest point of the multiple different pagan trainings that I've gone through. You're always supposed to keep a journal so you can look back on it. To whatever anthropologist studies my writings, 1,000 years from now, I'm sorry for the ensuing psychotic break that you're going to have, because that's what you're going to get from trying to follow my journaling. Um, Only time I was able to actually write down things consistently was when that squirrel was there. And I've looked back on it and I smelled toast. I have no idea where my brain was during that time, because the one thing I could consistently journal was the most tangential gibberish I have ever put pen to paper with. It was insane. Absolutely nuts. I probably should have been studied. Um, and then the other one, the second one, was the Star Wars ritual. Because, of course, Star Wars, we drew down the Death Star. It was so much fun. It was so much fun. We had that the group that I was with at the time was so creative, and we had so much fun with that. It was absolutely phenomenal. And considering the overarching themes of Star Wars, I don't know. I'm thinking there, the resistance, the great empire, what we're facing today.
Mm,
I think that could be a lot of fun, a lot of symbols to play around with there. But like, yeah, the
yep.
the idea of political cartoons being able to take what we're dealing with and engrave it and capture what is happening. Cartoonists are the, in so many ways, they're the harlequin, they are the jester. They are there to make fun of the person in power, and often that was the only person in the court who could make fun of the king. And sadly, we live in a world now where, we would have a would-be king. So comedians and cartoonists and artists, they are that line in the sand, because if we don't want to spill over into a world of violence, that is the primary method by which we can respond. How do we create something that robs the power of this scary, scary thing so that it becomes fightable? And that's one of the functions of art, of symbolism, of creativity. If something's too hot to handle, you break it down into symbols. And you one of my all-time favorite analogies, nobody can move a mountain, but with enough dynamite you can pick up pebbles.
Oh,
There you go.
mm, pick up pebbles. I
Pick
like that.
up pebbles. Yes. I may be a tangential mess most of the time, but I'm good for one-liners.
Well, I I appreciate the look at Moose Mass, and I
Hmm.
never thought of a Star Wars ritual. I really, really, really like that. But
Hmm.
one of the things I was going to point out is if you talk or you hear, read, or see George Lucas talk about the creation of Star Wars, it was very deliberate, and there's
Hmm.
a connection that most people don't know, that George Lucas was really good friends with Joseph Campbell. And if you don't know Joseph Campbell, you should. Joseph Campbell is a man who studied mythology. He has passed beyond the veil, but he studied mythology, and he studied mythology worldwide. So he would compare and contrast mythologies. And he wrote something called The Journey of, well, it just left me, The Hero's Journey. He wrote a book called The Hero's Journey, where he broke down the mythological hero's journey in general, like from beginning to end, comparing it and contrasting it to other cultures, and weaving it together. And George Lucas was friends with Campbell and knew about the hero's journey and wrote Star Wars as a hero's journey, which
Hmm.
is why the way the story is told was important, because he really wanted to tell it from episode 1 to episode 6, but the nobody would pick up episode 1 because it was a little dark. And so,
Hmm.
and really it didn't have any context, right? It was a very different way to look at Star Wars, and which is why he ends up going back and doing it later. But Lucas was masterful at creating these thought forms. And I
Hmm.
really believe that's what he thought he was doing. He was putting together a modern myth based off of ancient myth that
Hmm.
informed his ability to be successful, and he was masterfully successful at it.
100% agreed. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing with the hero's journey. So the hero's journey, and then the masks of God, and then
Right.
I can never get them in the right order. King, Magician, Warrior, Lover, Warrior, King, Magician, Lover.
Yes.
Yeah, that
Right.
that book. I've read it a dozen times. I still can't get
Get it right. No, neither can
get it
I.
right. But those three books I read around the same time, and it had an absolutely profound influence on how I strongly recommend to any of our listeners out there, pick up those three books, read them, because they're going to give you a big insight into how like archetypal psychology works, how we connect with these templates in our head. So a lot of these thought forms come out of like Jungian archetypal psychology. They are
Right.
so very, very important because these are like core foundational symbols that we as people work with. And like even like when you do like comparative mythology, when you look at the Greek pantheon versus the Norse pantheon, the like Zeus, by every stretch of the imagination, is a giant walking modern red flag, and yet he's still the father god of this pantheon. And so, like, how do you cancel an archetype? You can't. Like, it's a thing. But when you look at the hero's journey, the story of Star Wars, specifically Episode 4, you are also seeing the journey of the fool in the tarot. The young naive boy goes out on the adventure, and so when George Lucas wrote this, he wrote it with a roadmap of
Mm-hmm.
development for these
Mm-hmm.
characters. You've got the magician in the form of Obi-Wan Kenobi. You've got the Empress. You've got, I mean, there's so much there. um it's so many times I hear there's nothing new. It's not true. There's endless variation on core themes. And in those variations, there is the possibility of greater nuance and greater understanding of ourselves. That's why, like, I plug this all the time. In the craft, one of the most sacred symbols we have is the spiral. And it's often misunderstood because the spiral doesn't start at the center and then spiral outward. It starts outward and it spirals infinitely inward. But it's also not just two dimensions, it's three dimensions. So you're spiraling down as you're going in. And that's what these symbols help us to do. And so that's, again, one of my little tangents.
That's okay. I was going to say, if you don't like to read, one of the things George Lucas did do was
Mm-hmm.
when Joseph Campbell was diagnosed with cancer and was going to die, he gave a series of lectures. They're called collectively the Joseph Campbell lectures. And Lucas took a film crew and videotaped all of these lectures. So understanding mythology is one, Young and the myth of, oh wait, Young and the myth, what is it? Young and the shadow system
Mm.
lectures is another one. But you can just go on and Google Joseph Campbell lectures, and there's a josephcampbell.org. Is it .org or .com? It is .org. JCL jcf.org, the Joseph Campbell Foundation. They have a list of all of the videos that you can watch. And I found these videos in the library
Mm-hmm.
back when they were on VHS. That's how old I am. So I found these lectures in VHS, and I rented them one at a time and watched them. So there's hours of documentation out there where if you're not a big reader, you can watch Joseph Campbell. Basically, he was a
Mm-hmm.
professor. You can watch him give these lectures and still tap into that information. And there's always a PowerPoint that goes with it. So using symbols as part of his presentation. They're really great. So if you think, I just can't read those books like that,
Mm-hmm.
don't discount knowing Joseph Campbell. Go out there and find on YouTube those lectures and watch them. Because they're well worth your time, and they will give you a greater understanding, again, of Jungian philosophy and psychology, but also in yourself and how
Mm-hmm.
these interplay with who you are, and how our collective consciousness, which is another part of pop magic, interplays with all of this as well. You know, when we all have we all are developing collectively memories as we exist on this plane, and
Mm-hmm.
and some of those archetypes are still being played out in today's society, and you can see that if you know about these archetypes and what they are. And if you're into tarot, there is a Jungian tarot. I keep meaning to pick it up. I haven't picked it up, but there is a young tarot, Jungian tarot that you can get, and I would highly encourage that, because that's another way to learn these um, myths and these um, archetypes. So
Mm-hmm.
the Jungian, it's literally the Jungian tarot. That's the name of it. So it's the Jungian tarot, and you can get it from Jeff Bezos if you want, or you can get it from your local occult store.
Listen, Jeff and I are on the outs right now
Oh,
because
why?
oh my goodness. Okay, so when we moved into our new house, I'm gonna take this as a sign. I've never had an apple tree before, but I live in Washington now, and our new house has an apple tree. It's literally right outside this window here, and it is the happiest apple tree I have ever seen. I mean, hundreds and hundreds. It's not huge, but I am definitely giving offerings to this tree. It is so happy. We're less than a third of the way through picking apples on this thing, and it fills both my sinks, like completely full. I'm gonna have so many apples, like I'm gonna be mass producing apple butter and jam and everything for like I'm gonna have it forever. Um, like I'm holiday gifts, like that's where we're at. Um, but I need an apple peeler. And I ordered an apple peeler and an apple picker because my husband is very dense. And when I put him on my shoulders to get to those top apples, there's the potential for losing life and limb. And so I need an apple picker and I need an apple peeler. And I ordered them. And Jeff Bezos has not come through. It's been delayed twice. And if the squirrels get my apples before my apple picker gets here, Jeff and I are going to have a conversation.
Um, I, Jeff and I are on pretty good terms right now. But I also have not. Well, I did. Have I mentioned that we got a Ring doorbell
I think
from Jeff
no,
Bezos?
I think you mentioned it, but I don't think you mentioned it on camera because we have those
Okay,
two different
so
flavors of our lives now.
I'm going to tell this story because it's funny, and it makes fun of myself. So there you go. We got a Ring doorbell, and in our at our Covenstead, we have two driveways, and the one driveway ends in the backyard, and it's very dark at night. And as the light has been waning, we've been worried about people parking back there and then walking to the back of our house to get into the Covenstead. So we bought a Ring doorbell that had floodlights that we could like move so that we could
Mm-hmm.
light up that area, but also see, we have kids that play we have a swing set. There's kids that play on that. And so we just wanted to cover our liability as well. So that's part of what's
Mm-hmm.
going on there. So it's brand new. I go out, I walk the dogs, I come back in, and I have an alert on my phone that says there's a person in the backyard. And then it shows me a video of this woman, bald as day, just walking in to my back porch. And she was just walking toward my door. And I thought, oh my God, who's about to walk through my back door without even knocking? It was me from when I walked the dogs. I was the one walking bold as day into my own
It was me. I was the drama.
house. So that's
I
my
know
adventures in Ring doorbells right now. Is that I
we've been
I
discussing
thought
getting
it was
one.
in real time. It didn't occur to me that the alert probably had gone off earlier and I was just now seeing it. But yeah, it was me. And like it took
Yeah.
me a good minute to figure out who it was. I was like clueless. I was like, oh. We have to do something about that. We've actually changed the settings since then. So we don't get alerted every time one of us goes in the backyard, because we do that a lot with our dogs.
We talked about getting a Ring doorbell, and it was the moment it happened, the moment that this conversation, this topic, this thought was brought up, my brain did what it does. It spun out, okay, these are the pros and the cons, because I'm a very analytical person in that way. But then my brain also said, this is you. How are you going to mess this up? What are you going to do that's going to be awkward? And the possibilities swamped me. Like, Chris and I dined out on that conversation for a month, because I have literally never gone out. I don't get a newspaper delivered. My brain generated the idea of me getting stuck in my underwear on the front porch, picking up a newspaper I've literally never had and being recorded. And then that popping up on Chris's phone while he was in a meeting at UW with his department chair. I may need therapy. And by I definitely need therapy.
Definitely need
But
therapy.
that was one of the mildest. I mean, come on. You and I have talked about like our death speeches, Dia. Like,
Yes.
obviously we need therapy. Um,
Yes.
but like I am deathly afraid of any kind of recording device in my home, because I am an awkward weirdo, and I just know that that is what will survive. Somehow it will get leaked to the internet, and I will be that kid with the lightsaber from like 2006 who got made fun of on the internet so much he sued and put himself through law school. Like that, without the law school, that'll be my future.
I we have talked about this doorbell situation for a long time, but the problem that I have in this house is I can't see out my front door without opening the door. And I can't
Mm,
see into that corner of the Covenstead without walking out onto the back porch,
mm-hmm,
which means if I'm home alone and I hear something, I have no way of knowing what's going on outside, without actually putting myself outside. So
mm-hmm,
part of it was a security issue for us. We've put one on the front so that we can see people, and who, if someone comes to the door, I don't have to open that door. I can actually talk through the Ring doorbell now.
mm-hmm,
And so that's part of why we did it. But it was a long time coming. Tony and I talked and talked and talked, and Tony, of course, spent weeks and weeks and weeks trying to decide which apparatus to purchase, and then at the end he was like, I can't do it, I just can't bring myself to spend the money. You go on the on Jeff Bezos and you press the button to buy it. And so I did. So that's how we ended up with our Ring doorbells.
So Tony instructed you to press Jeff Bezos's button.
Yes.
That's how my brain interpreted that, and I'm gonna sit with that for a while.
Well, we are poly.
I mean, true. And I don't know, I mean, he may be a complete sellout, but he's not an unattractive guy. I'm just saying.
That is true.
Plus,
True.
he's a billionaire. So, I mean, I'm not saying
Right.
I'm a gold digger. I'm just saying, I mean, for a couple $1 billion, I've seen what I'll do for a Klondike bar. So, like, I mean,
Are those still a thing? You have so
they
dated yourself.
are.
Are they a thing?
Klondike bars are still a thing. They are. I mean, they're probably not as popular, but listen, if you want my husband to change his day plans, tell him, hey, I just bought a family sized case of Klondike bars, and he's there, because it's like awesome.
Tony and I got into a fight yesterday. Um, that was a little silly, but I was really salty about it. And I don't, you have to understand, I don't get angry, and I certainly don't stay angry. But, you know, an hour later, I was still mad. Oh, Kyler doesn't agree with this statement.
There is salty, and then girl, there is the Dead Sea, and then there is Dia. So I'm just saying, let's paint with the color reality, because y-
Okay, I
mm,
got salty, and I was salty for a while, and then Tony went out to vote, early voting. And I was like, I am so mad at him. I'm still mad at him. Let's see. you know what I want? I want Brewster's. I want a turtle sundae. That's what I want. And so he actually went out and got me a turtle sundae so that I would have the chocolate, so it would elevate my mood a little bit, so I would not be mad at him anymore. But I think that that's better than flowers, in my opinion.
I mean, chocolate, yes. Chocolate is all, yes, agreed, 100%. Chocolate has saved many a man's life when he has engaged in the Civil War at home. Like,
Yep.
it's a thing. Like, it is the offering that you get to the desolate smug. You propitiate the dragon so that she does not bite your head off. Um, Chris does the same thing with me. Like, I may be a little dramatic, and he is less dramatic, but occasionally, like, he, and he's so consistent with his considerateness that I don't always catch it as the bribe that it is. Because that's the thing about
Oh.
when you're married to a psychologist, they're little brain Jedi,
Mm.
like they're slick. So he diffuses me before I have a chance to become the black magic glitter bomb that is my irritation. So
Well, we have gotten way off topic, but that's okay. That's
it
how
was
we
pop
roll.
magic. That was
It
gonna
was pop
happen.
magic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Brewster's is a thought form.
Mm-hmm. I mean, a thought form, a get out of jail free card. It's a lot of
All
things.
right.
That's how
It's
symbols
a lot
work,
of things.
know?
If it works, it's true.
Law of pragmatism and
Law of
self-preservation.
pragmatism is right. So that's all we have for pop magic and magical creatures. Um, we are really excited about Michael coming on and really getting into the axioms of magic, and I can see that being a couple of Apple episodes because there's so many to go through.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that going long and being split into two actually because of that. But we're really excited, so that'll be upcoming. And we appreciate that you were here today, and we hope that you'll come back and download us and look for us on TikTok. And I just discovered this week that on TikTok we're urban.unwitches. I didn't know about the dot. I have been saying we're urban unwitches, but there's a dot. I didn't know that. And I figured this out at LARP because someone said, "You have a TikTok?" And I went, "Yeah, it's Urban Unwitches." And they looked it up and they said, "There's a dot in between urban and unwitches." And I said, "Huh, who knew?" But it came up. Is there a dot? Am I wrong?
I'm checking now because, and I'm sure I know how to do this. That's, yeah, I am such a Luddite. Like, I used to build websites, and now I'm just like, ooh, technology, tooey tooey. Is there an urban
Is there a
unwitches? There's
dot
gotta be.
in urban
Oh, there we go.
unwitches?
I'm not even sure where to find it.
Well, just go to the TikToks.
I'm on the
and
TikToks. I see your
see
face.
it says at urban dot unwitches. It really does. Whoa, it's in there.
We can't
see the little
anything.
space. There's a space.
Oh, there
so
we
go. It is at urban dot unwitches. Sorry about that, y'all. Hang on. Now I have to turn off my phone. Wow. Okay, here we go again.
I take full and sole responsibility for the complete scattershot. Like, I woke up and my neurology said violence. I need violence. So,
well, okay. So that's it for Pop Magic and Magical Creatures. We hope you enjoyed our episode today, and we hope that you'll come back and join us again. Download our episodes, please. That's how we get counted for listenings and views. And then join us on TikTok at urban.unwitches. I hope you have a magical day.
Hail and farewell.
Thank you for listening to Urban Unwitches. Please reach co-host Kyler Petrie and Rev Dia at urbanunwitches@gmail.com. That's urbanunwitches@gmail.com to suggest topics for shows or comment on past episodes. Please join our Discord channel, Urban Unwitches Podcast. Follow us on TikTok at Urban Unwitches. Follow us on YouTube at Urban Unwitches to watch all episodes. And listen to all our past podcasts on your favorite podcasting platform. Rev Dia is a witch for hire as an officiant, life coach, astrologer, geomancer, and medium, and can be reached at www.revdia.net. See you next time. Thank you for joining us on the Circle Podcast, presented by Circle Sanctuary, and produced for all who follow nature-centered paths. Join us throughout the week for various programming connecting with the community around the world. Please don't forget to watch for updates on the Circle Sanctuary website at www.circlesanctuary.org. Follow us on Facebook at Facebook/Circle Podcasts. We can also be found on your favorite podcast hosting sites, such as iTunes, Spotify, and others. Until next time, many blessings.